Located a few miles south of Colorado Springs, North Cheyenne Canyon Park is one of Colorado's most scenic natural treasures. The canyon was carved over millions of years by water and glaciers, creating dramatic cliffs and deep gorges. Long before settlers arrived, it was home to the Ute people who considered the land sacred. In the mid-1800s, European settlers began exploring the region, and by the 1870s, gold prospectors and ranchers were staking claims in the area. In 1885, a local businessman, William Jackson Palmer, recognized the area's natural beauty and potential for public recreation. He acquired the land and donated it to the city of Colorado Springs, helping to establish it as one of the first public parks in the area. Today, the park spans over 1,000 acres and offers something for everyone: hiking, rock climbing, wildlife viewing, and of course, waterfalls. It's a place where nature, history, and adventure come together, and today, we're going to explore a few of those waterfalls.
Well, hey everybody. Today, we find ourselves in North Cheyenne Canyon, right along North Cheyenne Creek, and which is just right outside of Colorado Springs. And we've come up here to investigate a really kind of cool little feature that's really close to Colorado Springs. So if you ever find yourself in the Colorado Springs area, you're definitely going to want to check out this location. Like I said, it's right up North Cheyenne Canyon. So make sure you remember that. And then North Cheyenne Creek. Beautiful location in here. We're actually heading to a waterfall. And really, we're actually heading to 2 waterfalls. So the second one we'll keep that a secret. But we're heading up here. Let's go and take a look at the visitor center, and then let's take a look at the waterfall. And remember, we're trying to build this subscription base. So make sure that you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you like this type of video. And come on along for the adventure. It's only myself and Rock Doctor Son today. So we're up here on just a dad-son adventure in North Cheyenne Canyon along North Cheyenne Canyon Creek. All right, we have arrived at the Helen Hunt Falls Visitor Center. So we're going to go over here and we're going to take a look at what's in the visitor center, and we're also going to take a look at the waterfall. So from what I have read, is the fall that you're about ready to see has an overall drop of 36 feet. So let's go up and take a look at the falls. Here is the Helen Hunt waterfall in North Cheyenne Creek Canyon. So it has an overall drop of 36 feet, and the bridge, as you can see, spans North Cheyenne Creek. So here is the waterfall at the Helen Hunt Visitor Center, named in honor of Helen Hunt Jackson. And we'll go into the visitor center so you can find out a little bit more about Helen Hunt Jackson and her contributions to the literary world. So we've got some geology here, and we've got literature intertwined together.
Helen Hunt Jackson was a pioneering American author, poet, and activist whose legacy still resonates today. Born in 1830 in Massachusetts, Helen Hunt Jackson was a fierce advocate for Native American rights. In 1873, she traveled west and settled in Colorado Springs. It was here she became inspired to create some of her most enduring works. In 1881, a book called The Century of Dishonor highlighted the mistreatment of Native peoples. Her most famous work, Ramona, was a novel set in California. It became an instant classic, helping bring awareness to the plight of indigenous communities.
Helen Hunt Jackson died in 1885 in San Francisco, and she was originally buried in San Francisco. Her husband had her body moved, and her original grave was located at Seven Bridges Falls, about a canyon over from the Helen Hunt Falls where we were just at a place called Inspiration Point. But her husband feared that her grave would be vandalized, so he had her grave one more time, so for the third time, transferred to where we are today, and that's Evergreen Cemetery here in Colorado Springs. And this is the final resting spot of Helen Hunt Jackson, who lived from 1830 to 1885. She died at the age of 54 of stomach cancer, I believe. So this is her final resting spot. Okay, at the visitor center there is another trail that takes you to another waterfall called the Silver Cascade Falls. So let's go on up the trail, see what we can see with the Silver Cascade Falls. And the trail takes us right over the top of Helen Hunt Falls that we just filmed. So there's the waterfall. We're about ready to cross the bridge, but the trail is really steep, so this is what Helen Hunt waterfall looks like from the top, looking straight down at North Cheyenne Canyon Creek. And that's the parking lot where we park. And there's Rock Dr. Sun going up the trail on the other side. That's where we're heading. And we have to cross the bridge here, so we're going to be going across the bridge, and then there's a small little waterfall at the top up here. So we'll go across the bridge here. Rock Dr. Sun taking the first of maybe one or two rest stops on the way up to Silver Cascade Falls. It is a steep stairs all the way up, and its steps is well, that's about 3/10 of a mile to Silver Cascade Falls, along stairs that look just like this. Really is pretty in here. I can see why there's a park. Another little spot where we're now gaining some elevation. I think I read somewhere where there was 240 some odd stairs-ish along this trail. So it's not like the Manitou Incline, but it is steep. And the stairs, uneven. Okay, this is a little side trail. We'll be able to take a look back to see where we're heading. And if I remember right, there's a nice little bench over here where we can catch our breath. Because I'm not in the best of shape like I was back in my puppy geology days. Okay, this is the view from that little side trail. We're about halfway up to Silver Cascade Falls. And as promised, there's the bench that we can sit and catch our breath. No, not that bench. That's not a bench proper for a geologist. That's a bench. This is the Pikes Peak Granite, and it forms a perfect place to sit and catch the view. Why would anybody sit in a manufactured bench when you have a perfect piece of Pikes Peak granite to rest your weary bones on and take a look at this fantastic Colorado view? From our vantage point here, that is Silver Cascade Falls. And we're here at the end of summer, so we're at the low time for water. So there's not a lot of water flowing over the top of Silver Cascade Falls. And I'll put an arrow to where the little overlook is, but it's essentially like right in the center of the video. So I'll put an arrow to it. That's the view that, or that's where we're heading, and you'll be able to see the view from up there here momentarily after we go through about another 100 and so steps. All right, we're going to continue on up to Silver Cascade Falls. From here, the trail gets a little bit more obnoxious. The steps are definitely not even. Sometimes they're missing. Sometimes you kind of have to go around. And there is a lot of loose material on the trail. So you kind of have to watch where you're stepping and hopefully you don't slide. And right through here, I'll put an arrow to it. That's Silver Cascade Falls. Here at the overlook for Silver Cascade Falls, you can see a spring that is coming literally right out of the trail, comes down over the top of this granite, goes right in front of my feet here, and then disappears into the ground. And eventually this water, it will keep on going, and eventually it will go and it will join Silver Cascade Falls, which you can see right behind me here. So the fallen tree kind of prevents us from going any further this way, but Silver Cascade Falls is right here, and all of the water is migrating down canyon. All right, so as I pointed out, so Silver Cascade Falls is right behind me. However, just a little bit ago, we're going to walk over this way, and Rock Dr. Sun's going to follow me. You're going to be able to see the overlook here. And way off in the distance, and I'll put an arrow to it, way off in the distance is my geology bench that I sat on, made out of the Pikes Peak Granite. And you can see it way off in the distance there, and there's some people walking out towards it. Like I said, I'll put an arrow over to it, and that's where we started. And you were looking at Silver Cascade Falls, looking back, and it literally is right behind us here. So that's where we started. This is North Cheyenne Canyon and North Cheyenne Canyon Creek. And then way out in the distance out there, that's Colorado Springs. All right behind the fallen log here is another plant that you want to take a look at. That's a wild rose bush, and those red things, those are rose hips. And some people collect those. Some people make tea out of them. Some people make jelly or a jam out of them, and they're really good, except it does take an enormous amount of sugar in order to make the jam or jelly. And my grandmother used to make rose hip preserves, and they were really good. And then, of course, right along with the rose hips, there is more stinging nettle. Okay, and one last plant that I want to point out while we're up here at the overlook is this tree. This is a wild chokecherry, and they are just about ready to be eaten by the birds of the forest. Now, back in my youth, growing up in Wyoming, my mother and father, we used to spend hours collecting the wild chokecherries up on a mountain that was close to our home, and my mother would make chokecherry jams, chokecherry jelly, and chokecherry syrup. But it was an all-day event collecting the wild chokecherries. And it was always a race to see who was going to get them first. Was it going to be us, or was it going to be the birds? And you can see the birds have already started to go after the wild chokecherries. But these are what wild chokecherries look like. Okay, another little plant that we encounter on the way back down the trail is what we referred to growing up as scrub oak. And you can see the little acorns that grow on the scrub oak. And one, this is an important food source for the local little critters in the area. And two, if you're ever up in this section of Colorado in the fall, this scrub oak turns incredible shades of yellows and oranges and reds. It really is a beautiful plant in the fall, but it's also a really important food source. There's another one right there. And these are literally right along the trail. So I'm reminded by Rock Doctor's son, he wants me to put in there that if you see these, don't pick them and play with them, because honestly, you're robbing the poor little critters of the forest their food stash source for the winter. So they are important. Even though they're right by the trail, just leave them where you see them.
Tucked away in the foothills of Colorado Springs stood two historic landmarks, the Bruin Inn and the Cub. The Bruin Inn, built in 1920, originally started as a rustic mountain lodge catering to travelers looking to explore the natural beauty of Colorado's Pike National Forest. In its prime, the Bruin Inn hosted a variety of guests, adventurers, artists, and even local politicians. It became an iconic spot for both relaxation and inspiration. Unfortunately, the Bruin Inn burned down in 1957. Today, visitors can still see the old stone retaining wall that spells Bruin Inn in white quartz. A small log cabin was built in 1916 next to the Bruin Inn. It was nicknamed the Cub. It quickly became a popular destination for families and weekend getaways. The old decaying Cub building was torn down and rebuilt in 2012 and now serves as a visitor center and curio shop for Helen Hunt Falls. While the Bruin Inn no longer exists, its legacy lives on in the hearts of locals and history enthusiasts alike, with its name still visible on the rock retaining wall.
We've come up the road to where the pavement ends into an incredible parking lot. Now, the parking lot actually is not the end of the road. You can actually take a dirt road and it will take you back to Colorado Springs, but it's a narrow one-lane road. But that's not the reason why we're here. The parking lot actually stops right where this incredible road cut is located, exposing the Pikes Peak Granite. Now, the Pikes Peak Granite is 1 billion years old. So it was emplaced 1 billion years ago, completely buried, and it was uplifted about 65 million years ago, about the time the dinosaurs died, and it was exposed here and created the Front Range. Now, during that process of uplifting, obviously there were a lot of earthquakes, and what you can see in this incredible cut is all of these fracture patterns that are a little bit darker brown than the actual granite. And that actually shows how the Pikes Peak Granite was broken apart during the uplifting process. And it allowed water and that sort of thing to come down along the cracks and start interacting with the minerals. Now, that erosion process also breaks down the granite. So granite has a lot of a mineral called potassium feldspar in it. And when potassium feldspar weathers, because of water interaction, and there's a lot of water that falls up here in the form of rain and snow, it will actually degrade and turn into a clay type of mineral and quartz. And what happens is, as the potassium feldspar breaks apart and turns into the clay, you form all of this material called grus. Now,
Some people refer to it as scree, and some people would refer to this as a scree slope. But back when I was in geology school as a puppy geologist, we always knew this stuff as gruss. And this is broken down, decomposed granite. And what happens is the potassium feldspars, like I said, turn to clay, and then it breaks apart and the harder minerals are left. And it eventually, what will happen is this stuff will continue to erode, and it will be taken down via the creeks and the rivers, and it eventually winds up along the beaches to form your nice quartz sand beaches. Because quartz is a very, very hard mineral and very resistant, and so it will be the one mineral that continues on down the course of the river. Now, the other thing you can see here, besides the gruss piles or the scree piles, is behind me these nice little like boulder-like features. Granite, during the decomposition process, it actually it goes through a process called exfoliation. More or less, it kind of peels like an onion, and these great big huge exfoliation sheets will break off, and what we'll have left at the end of it is this nice bouldery type shape. And so you can see some of these in this cliff face behind me, these exfoliation boulders that are left in place. And they too will eventually erode, and they too will eventually break down and become scree and or gruss. And so you'll actually have this whole thing eventually decompose as the granite will continue to eat back. But this cut right here in this parking lot is absolutely incredible. You can see the fracture patterns, like I said. You can see the exfoliation boulders. You can see the scree gruss piles. This is textbook decomposition of Pikes Peak granite. The Rock Doctor son and I would like to thank you guys for coming along on our adventure today up North Cheyenne Canyon to see Helen Hunt Falls. Now, in the background, one last little view of Silver Cascade Falls to kind of end our little video. So, you know, the Rock Doctor family, we really hope that you enjoy our little adventures, and you can tell us, one, by leaving us a comment. We really enjoy the comments. I actually personally respond to every single one of them. So make sure that you leave us a comment, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification, and a thumbs up would be great. So until next time, don't take a trip, let the trip take you. We, the whole Rock Doctor family, will be seeing you on down the road. Well, Rock Doctor son and I would like to thank you for coming along. Well, Rock Doctor son and I would like to thank you for coming along